All right, so today we are going to be installing a new wideband sensor. I got one that I picked up from AEM. And the reason being is that this car, not much has changed to this car. It's pretty much stayed the same. What ended up changing though is I got a new tuner. I met up with him. He got inside the car, he started tuning it, and we had to cut it just a little bit short because of my wideband sensor. The one I have in the car right now is from Air Force, and the data that we were seeing in the log just didn't look like good data. I mean, the AFR was coming through, but we were just seeing random spikes in the log. So he suggested to pick up a new sensor and go from there, install it, and then we can go back to finish up tuning this car. One I ended up going with is this AEM. I believe the part number is 03-0334, if I'm not mistaken. And this is the one that once you got it all hooked up, you should be able to plug it in directly to your OBDII port. Yeah, plug it to the OBDII port and then plug the HP tuners directly to it. Then we can start logging in and get data to show up through the VCM scanner. So I'm going to go ahead and be installing this one. Now, I do plan on keeping the Air Force wideband. That one right now is hooked up to the passenger side header. And this one is going to go on the driver's side header. I still have an extra bong there that I should be able just to screw in this sensor. Okay, so how I plan to power up the gauge is by tapping into, or actually using fuse slot 48. So here I have this out of circuit, which is soldered to a wire. I believe this is like gauge 14. That's gonna run all the way through the back, and that's gonna send power to the gauge. So the reason I'm using slot 48 here is because slot 48 becomes hot whenever the car is keyed on, and also whenever the car is running. So we get 12 volts from this slot right here. Now, AEM does recommend to add a 5 amp fuse. That's essentially what I'm doing here. I'm leaving the bottom slot open. Again, that's because I have no fuse here. Slot 48 is empty. And then just adding a fuse at the top. So as I mentioned, slot 48 here is empty. So 46, 47, and 48, these become hot whenever the car is keyed on and whenever the car is running. So you could use any of these. My recommendation is if you're going to use slot 46 or 47, you might want to use a relay, trigger the relay, and then send power from the relay to the gauge. But I'm not going to be using a relay. I originally was, but the relay I have actually went bad. But I can still use slot 48. We get 12 volts at my 5 amp fuse, and we're good to go. So like I said, slot 48 is empty, but I tested it, and we do get 12 volts whenever the car is keyed on and whenever the car is running, and whenever the car is off, we get no power. Now, here is one little issue with doing this, is with using out of circuit and, you know, grabbing power from the fuse box, is that, you know, whenever you run this cable and you try to put the fuse box cover back on, it's not going to sit 100% correctly. So one side will lock in, but the other side is a bit loose. So just heads up, that's just how I'm going to run it for now. I just need to get that AEM wideband gauge working, so that way we can continue data logging and finish tuning the car. All right, so I think what I'm going to start doing first is I'm going to route that wire straight through this opening over here, like the one I said I've used before. I do need to come in here, and I need to take off. Let me turn on my flashlight here. We need to take this off so that way we can see the opening that goes out into the engine bay. So to remove this right here, there's a couple clips. These are the little push clips. There's 1, 2, 3, and I believe there's another one over there. So let me go ahead and take those out. Here, there's one more right there, so a total of 5. And I'm also going to be disconnecting the battery in the back. All right, so now that I got all that out of the way, there we can see where the wires are running in for the Air Force wideband. I'm going to be feeding in the cables for the AEM gauge. There's a couple different places that you could actually feed the cables through. This is just one. place. That's the one I'm using. There's been people that have said that they can feed it in through over there and have it come out through where the glove box is and then route it through the back. That's one way, but this is the way I'm gonna do it since it was already done before. All right, I'm gonna try to do my best to record this right here, but like I said, I'm just gonna feed these through there. There it goes. Yeah. Okay, so that one's there. So let me go out over here to the engine bay and pull that cable through. There it is. You leave some slack so that way I can run it up the side, and then my gauge is going to essentially get mounted over here on the windshield. I don't have a good mount yet, but we'll get there whenever we get there. So and I have a lot of wiring here. I just need to clean this up. So this is for the log, the Air Force wideband, and then this is for the Air Force gauge. So the nice thing is that even though I'm gonna have an AEM gauge, I should still be able to use the Air Force gauge to look at all the other parameters, and that one should just plug straight into the, I guess, the pass-through that came with the AEM gauge. So anyways, I'm gonna go ahead and take this off and then try to route this cable through the side and have it come out over here. All right, so to take this off, I recommend using like a plastic trim removal tool. Maybe shove it in from up here. Okay, all right, so now we got access to this. Here's kind of where I had tucked away the Air Force wideband module. So all of this is gonna stay here. I just need to route this through here, through the side, and have it come out over here. All right, so I ended up feeding the wire through the back and then pulling it up through here, and I'm just gonna leave it rest right here because essentially this is gonna go and connect to the back of the gauge. So I still need to feed another cable through. That's the one for the O2 sensor. So let me go ahead and do that. I'm gonna have to feed it in from that side into the inside of the car. All right, so here's the cable for the O2 sensor. So this guy right here, from this end, I'm gonna feed it through the opening, you know, brought it in through underneath, routed it up here, and then so these are the cables that are gonna go and connect to the back of the gauge. Next thing I got to do is, let's see, this is going to be what connects to the wideband sensor. So I'm gonna drop the cable through here, back there. Okay, kind of hard to see, but drop it through there, and then jack up the car and install the sensor on the driver's side header. So once we have that, the only thing left to do really is again, so this one's gonna go to that red wire that I just ran from the other side of the car, and then this one I just got a ground. Maybe I'll ground it right here. If I'm not mistaken, this is a ground point right there. All right, so now I'm underneath the car. So here's the old, I guess, OEM O2 rear O2 sensors. So I'm just gonna disconnect that one, plug in the new wideband sensor, and then here is that cable. So I just got to make sure that once I have everything hooked up, that it does not touch the header or anything else that could potentially, you know, melt the cable. All right, so next up, I'm gonna take this off and we will then hook up the new wideband sensor. All right, so factory O2 sensors out, and then here is the AEM wideband sensor. Looks like this already has a little bit of anti-seize on the thread, so that's good. So yep, just gonna go down there and hook this one up next. So I already screwed in the O2 sensor to the header. We're pretty much in the home stretch, so all I got to do now is solder this to this one that goes to the gauge, and then this black one just grounded. So I'm gonna solder these two together or hook them up, and then the black one here, I just have this that I took from an old relay, and I'm gonna solder that, and then I'm just gonna run it to right here, and that should ground it on this side, and that's it. So let me go ahead and knock that out. All right, so I got everything hooked up here. So like I said, the power cable that's coming from the other side is now wired to the red cable that goes to the gauge, and then the black cable right here, that's the ground. So I ended up just grounding that right there. So I think we're pretty much ready to see if the gauge fires up and if we get a reading. All right, so just for right now, I just have the gauge sitting up here resting, and let me key on the car and see what happens. Oh, let me see some activity here. Okay, I think it has to kind of go through like a heat cycle for the first time. And right now, just the car is in accessory mode. So the good thing is, I mean, there it goes. Let's see what happens. All right, and there we go. So I fired up the car and wideband's reading. So good. So I guess I hooked everything up right. All right, so now we can resume tuning. So that's gonna wrap it up for today's video.